Hi, I'm Mariah.
And I'm Kelly.
And for those of you who are joining us today, whether it's today or on a recorded playback, we're so happy that you're here with us. Today, we thought we would talk about what it means to live beyond performance and to provide a little additional context on that topic. Kelly and I have both been talking recently about how much we've been groomed to show up in ways that we perceive are expected of us in different times in our life. And that could be one way around our family or our parents specifically, and another way around, let's say, your children or friends, or we go to work and we feel like we've got certain expectations of us, or, there's all these different places in our life, and how we've had to work on overcoming that performance mentality and just giving ourselves permission to be our authentic self, no matter the situation. And we don't have it all figured out. I guess that's something
That's
I will
true.
start with.
I know. I was like, I would love to talk about too, like, what is performance?
Yeah.
Because for me, my performance tends to show up where I'm like overcommitting myself, for example.
Yeah.
That's a big way that performance shows up for me. So it's not necessarily like you're doing a song and dance, figuratively, of course, with your family even, or like with friends. It's also, how do you show up in the quiet spaces of yourself when no one's watching and you're behind closed doors and something comes across your path and you have a decision to make? Are you still in performance in that space as well? So I definitely want to touch on that as we kind of dive in today. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's going to be really good. I'd love to kick us off. I found a Brene Brown quote. And
yes, please.
We love Brene Brown.
Yes.
But I just love this one. She says, authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. And I think it's such a beautiful quote. And also, when you're going through big changes in life of any kind, or you're feeling a lot of pressure, it can also be one of the most intimidating types of quotes, because so often it seems to be these big moments, these big kind of upheavals in life of any kind of change. It could be something with your family, something with a job. There's so many different reasons. It could be financial, it could be emotional, it could be healing work, anything that causes big moments of growth that tend to have us also take a step back and go, wait a second, who am I though? And so I recognize that can feel rattling, but I still think it's a really beautiful quote. And sometimes the act of just living every day and being present in the moment is enough. Like, you don't have to have a response for like all the questions that feel so surface level and drive me nuts, as you know. The like, oh, what do you do?
My favorite one is, what church do you go to? Well, I'm not gonna like dive into this too deep, but like, I definitely don't go to church anymore. And there's many, many reasons for that.
Neither one of us do.
Totally in for spirituality all day long. It's a very important part of being human. And my spiritual practice looks very unique now to what I grew up with. But that was such a defining one for so long. And to your point about career, right? I feel like there's these buckets that people expect us to perform in. It's like, oh, do you work out? Like, did you, it's just these like kind of check the box, like surface level things. And I think to your point, when you start digging into the work and you start kind of seeing yourself and going to the next level down, when no one's there to like judge you. How are you showing up for yourself? How are you showing up for these people in your life? And does it even bring you joy? Does it even fulfill you? Or is it all obligation? I know I've had many seasons of obligatory choice where it's like, well, this is, the right thing to do, or I should do this. And I always joke now, like, don't shit on yourself. Like, it's really crazy, but I'm still very guilty of doing this at times where, especially in like, I feel like the busier I get, sometimes even more so, like the more I do it.
Because, well, we tend to default back to past patterns because they're familiar, even if they're uncomfortable or we know that they're unhealthy.
That's right.
When it's familiar territory, sometimes we're more comfortable there than in the unknown of like,
saying no, for example.
Saying, I've had to work really hard on this. And actually, it's something we've just recently been discussing. So
yeah.
For those of you who might be struggling to say no, I can share the trick that I shared with Kelly earlier of what I've done.
Please do.
So I would say this started for me when I got divorced. And I really had to start thinking about, talk about an identity crisis. I had really lost myself in a very unhealthy relationship, but it happened gradually. So of course I didn't realize it was happening until I no longer had the second part of that relationship. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I remember somebody offering to like make plans for my birthday. And I was so grateful that I had a friend who wanted to go do something and celebrate. And I'm laughing because she said, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I have no idea. I really couldn't, I couldn't come up with a single thing that I wanted to do.
Sounded good. Yeah.
And so she said, well, we could do anything. We could go do sip and paint. We could go find a live show somewhere and go see something. And we could go to a wine bar. We could go to a restaurant and just have dinner. And she gave me probably 10 options. And I was like, I love all of those things. And I was like, yeah, any of them. And she goes, okay, well, pick one.
Pick one.
And I really struggled, but I did eventually. So that is where my journey started in like learning how to talk about the things that mattered to me.
Yeah.
And like just what I wanted to do. And then it bled into all the obligations where somebody would invite me to do something and I would pause before responding and say, hold on a second. Am I saying yes to this because I feel obligated to?
Mm-hmm.
Am I saying yes to it because I want to do it? Am I saying no to it because I'm scared? Or am I saying no because it just doesn't resonate with me and it's not actually something I want to do?
Yeah.
And so I got better at pausing and just doing the internal check and asking myself why I wanted to lean one way or another before I responded. And I gave myself permission to say no. And I'm somebody who really struggles with not giving a reason why. I'm not, because I don't know. I know that we all say no is a complete sentence.
Yeah.
And somehow I'm not very good at saying no as a complete sentence. So I find that I like to have a reason when I'm declining doing something, because I also don't want to make somebody feel like they don't matter or I don't want to spend time with them. I mean, it's not often that truly happens to me.
Yeah.
Probably every once in a while, but I think what I've been able to lean on comfortably is, I'm sorry, I know you're going to have a good time. I'm sure it's going to be a blast. I just have another commitment. It's true most of the time, but even if it's not true, like me time still counts as a commitment.
Yeah. And isn't that true? Like we often put ourselves on the second or third shelf of priority.
Oh,
often, we do. Right? Where it's like, wait, I don't count as a commitment. I don't count as something that's more important than this thing. Or even, with work commitments, all the commitments, think about that, like commitments with kids, commitments with, job and family and all the things that pull on us, sports and like all the things. It's like even hobbies. It's like, is this something, that's truly building? And I think for me, I grew up in a family unit where like you show up for each other, right? That was kind of just like a general,
mine too, very much
expectation, I suppose, and it wasn't a bad expectation in the sense of we were given values about the importance of family. We were given values about the importance of like what it means to follow through with a commitment. But I will say I've often like put myself very far down the list of importance in order to show up for people. And I think for me, true vulnerability here for a second is I don't want anyone to ever believe, that I wouldn't show up for them And then I would want them to show up for me too. And I don't ever want them to look back and be like, oh, well, she just couldn't show up for me.
Oh, interesting.
And I've been accused of that before. Once by just kind of from an unfounded perspective.
Yeah.
At least in my opinion, it's unfounded.
It was.
Where she knows the story. Where someone literally required something of me. We'd been friends 20 years. And she called me up and was in distress and needed me right that second, and I was about to host a dinner party for a Christmas party. And I literally could not show up, even if I'd wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
I had a previous engagement and I declined. I said, I'm so sorry. I can see you in the morning. I can connect with you in the morning. And she ended our friendship over it. And it really, it wasn't just that. It was a long road of things where it was like, well, you just weren't a good friend to me at this time, or you weren't this. And I see a pattern of like, actually, I showed up for you like literally every time you called. Yeah. And so I've definitely had some pain surrounding this, I think, in my past where it's like, well, I don't want that to happen, Mm-hmm. And so there's a little bit of reticence of like, well, if I don't show up, what would happen? That I'm growing out of that, I think, mm-hmm. as I get healthier and as my nervous system starts to regulate, and I can kind of see that pattern of like, is it worth disappointing someone in the short term to protect myself and actually be safe in my own body? Yeah, it sure is.
It's bringing up an interesting point though,
Mm-hmm.
as I'm thinking about this and as you're talking, I'm thinking about how often we do something for other people with the expectation that they're going to pay us back.
That's right.
Don't. I mean,
that's right.
When we know that somebody is going through a hard time, mm-hmm. and we make them a meal, or mm-hmm. we drive an hour to go spend some time with them and mm-hmm. have a cup of coffee, or we have a long FaceTime call, or, mm-hmm. We just are making time to show up for people. And it could be a variety of ways. And you're so good at showing up for people. I'm just going to attest to that. But when we do that, we don't do that thinking, 10 years from now, I'm going to be in a moment and they're going to need to pay me back.
That's right.
And it just doesn't happen.
No.
And we all live life. Everybody has full lives.
Right.
And it's really okay for us to give ourselves grace, mm-hmm. and to say, I want to, but maybe how I show up for them is mm-hmm. going to look different. So as an example, maybe I don't have time to go spend with them right now,
mm-hmm.
but maybe because I know that they're going through XYZ, I'm going to send a care package, or, I'm going to check in every day, like make sure that we're texting or talking mm-hmm. more.
Yeah.
Like there's other ways to get creative.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because depending on what the situation is, like mm-hmm. I've found myself many times as I've been in situations with like caring for my brother, or like when he was in the hospital and things like that, where people wanted to show up for my family and my parents didn't want anybody around.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the flip side of that too. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that rejection of care or presence, I guess, can feel like, to the person who's wanting to give,
mm-hmm.
it can feel like, I don't know what to do. I want to do something. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And genuinely, sometimes the best thing is saying, I'm praying for you guys, or sending a card mm-hmm. or an email or a text or something funny that will so there's a reciprocity there with the intention, I think, but not with the act.
Yeah. And to tag on to that, I think it's really important as we are living life and kind of working through these different things. It's like, to use work as an example, or, again, a family situation. Mm-hmm. It's like, are you really living your life kind of working through this idea that I have to do things for people so that they will do things to me, for me? We don't hold ourselves to that. Like, we don't ever hold other people to that standard, right? It's like, I would never do something for someone and be like, well, they better get me back to your point earlier.
I mean, it's
Like,
actually
it wouldn't even
laughable.
occur to me.
Yeah.
But those thoughts still run through my head of like, well, I better show up for this person because what if? And it's so bizarre. Like, I would never hold a different person to that same standard. So why are we elevating the standard for ourselves from a performance perspective of you'd better fill in the blank or else?
Yeah. And we are always self-imposing that.
Yeah.
Like you as in me.
Right.
I better, when I'm looking in the mirror, you better show up.
That's right. Yeah. And so I just want to shake that off and unpack that too, because I think it's really critical as you're healing and as you're working through some of this and you start to see the patterns of performance in your life and identify how much energy and time they take from your day-to-day life. It's shocking sometimes, some of the little things where it's like, oh, I didn't know I was trying to manage that person's feelings. For example, and performance can look like codependency, guys. Performance can look really like it can show up in really interesting ways. It can show up. It's not just look how great I am. Look what I'm doing for you. It can also be I am suddenly responsible for how you feel. So I'm going to do whatever it takes to make you okay. Not okay.
Well,
it's not safe.
And as empaths, which we both are, we've both had to learn the lesson that even though it might make us temporarily feel better to alleviate somebody else's burden or try to manage their feelings about something or, all the toxic traits, that it A, doesn't fix the problem in the long run, and B, it just depletes us. And then we end up having to do way more self-work because we've just allowed ourselves to go down a rabbit hole and it wasn't healthy. Yeah. So I think we've gotten a lot better at that.
For sure.
Not going to say we're perfect.
No. But I feel like self-aware for sure, at least of like, oh, I caught myself doing this.
And I'm really proud of us when we do.
Yeah.
And I'm also really grateful for the fact that I feel so safe with you.
Yes.
That you can tell me if you're noticing something. Vice versa, I can tell you. And it's a safe space. Like we know we're doing it with the best of intentions.
That's right.
Just kind of an eye-opening, hey, I'm observing something. Yeah. And it feels safe and it feels good and loving.
I agree with that. And I wanted to touch on this too, because this kind of popped into my head as we were talking about this. Like the true confessions, right? We all have those people where we feel the safest to be our true selves with, right? This isn't for everybody. This isn't like go out in public and be like, oh, here's my life story. I have everything to tell you. Like,
don't
choose wisely, like obviously. But there's also those situations, and I think my younger self was much more guilty of this than I would be now. But there was also those times where I knew the people to go to basically tell me what I wanted to hear. So that's
manipulative.
It really is. But it's also a form of performance.
Oh, well, that's true.
Because if you're going to one person about, like, say it's a work thing and you're going to a coworker and you're processing this super toxic something with the coworker about your boss or about a situation at work, but the coworker can't actually change or help your circumstances, you're just feeding the toxicity. You're just pouring tons of energy onto it. You're making the fire bigger. Now that person potentially will take it on with you and carry the torch and be grumpy. And, it's just that. And so,
well, and what you focus on magnifies.
Absolutely.
Like that's all you're going to reflect back on you. It can also bite you in the ass because that same person could go tell your boss that this is how you feel.
That's right. So I think just a caution to, like, as you're working through healthy boundaries and kind of self-reflection through all of this, make sure that the people that you're talking to are the safe people where you tell the same story in every circumstance. If I'm telling a story and there's a little piece that's missing to this one person or a little piece to that person because I know I won't get away with it, that's not healthy. That's still performance. That's still showing up as a non-authentic part of who you are. And you're not giving everyone your full self. And if you can't give your full self to someone, just evaluate maybe why or what level of your life they should be involved in, right? Because
well, I have an example.
Well, I love this. Well.
Okay, it's not a fun example though. Okay, well,
I'm gonna use that. Well.
So relationships are one of those areas I've had to do a lot of healing. I've had a lot of toxic patterns that I've tolerated and I've fed into.
Sure.
Whatever.
Join the club.
I've really worked hard to heal these things. But I will say that one of the biggest things that after my marriage, I dated somebody seriously. And then I learned that I was repeating the same relationship patterns I thought I had outgrown in my marriage. And I had to take a step back and go, I learned these lessons already. Something within me still isn't healed if I'm still having these dynamics. That's a little bit of context to say every time something was happening in that relationship and I found myself not wanting to tell you because I felt ashamed, because I felt like I should know better. Sure. Why am I still in this situation? Why am I tolerating this behavior? Any of those feelings, well, I forced myself to tell you, even if it felt uncomfortable. Yeah. Because it felt vulnerable. Mm-hmm. But I also knew that if I wasn't willing to tell you, I was lying to myself.
That's right.
Because you are truly my safe space in that sense.
Very much so. That's a great example, even though it's, I remember, and it's hard to relive the truth of that. But at the same token, like the growth, the exponential growth that happened from you telling on yourself and being willing to look in a mirror and go, enough.
Well, I wasn't like, lying to myself, and I got out much faster.
Anymore, you sure did, and with aplomb, if I may. It was incredible to watch the growth spurt, though, after that relationship of who, like, literally, it was like no more. Yeah. And the things that were being tolerated, not just in that relationship, but in others too. It was like all of a sudden these boundaries were showing up, and this really incredible, powerful growth was happening. Yeah. So I think to encourage y'all as well, that there's those seasons when you see yourself bracing to, like, I don't want to be seen this way, or if they only knew who I really was on the inside, they would not want me, or they would be turned off, or they would be shocked what they would find out about me. I'm here to tell you, unless you've got really toxic people in your life, which in that case, we're glad you're here and looking for safer people in your life. Not everyone has the opportunity to have a super vulnerable, safe relationship with people. And I want to be very sensitive to that, because it definitely took me a long time. I mean, when I was in my mid-20s, before I even learned to trust any woman at all, much less like a best friend, like didn't really exist in my vocabulary. It took me meeting someone who was willing to call me out on my crap and look me in the eyes while she was saying these things to me in a very loving way. Like, why are you doing this to yourself? Like, why are you acting this way? Like, tell me about it. And when it came down to it, I didn't have answers for why I was acting that way. Yeah. It's just what I'd always done. And she was like, this is not who you actually are. You get to make other choices. And it was like, that just unlocked this deep desire for me to recognize, like, oh, I need relationship in my life. I need people that see me and love me. And that it's okay to create that inner circle, for yourself.
Well, I find personally that when I talk about the things that feel scariest, I also take their power away. Like, it's like shedding a light on them. Yes. And once I let the skeleton out of the closet and I talk about the thing that feels scariest and big, and I mean, I've done it with thoughts I've had. I've done it with situations I've found myself in relationship patterns. I mean, I'm human. I make mistakes. We all are.
We all are.
But I would say it feels really good. And there's been times where you've been able to look at me and say, that's a choice. Like,
Right.
You're right. You're in
Absolutely.
this situation because that's a choice.
That's a choice.
You've
right.
been able to look at me and go, wow, yeah, that's hard. That really sucks. You're not solving it. You're just listening to it. And somehow I am able to process through it. But I think there's something really powerful to both aspects of this. One, being able to talk about something openly with somebody you trust. And obviously you're my default because you're my best friend, but I have many people in my life, and that can be like somebody I go to for healing support. That can be, other family members. And sometimes the situation that I'm in or whatever I'm in, maybe feeling like I need to process will impact who I speak to about it. Because
Absolutely.
Yes, sometimes a neutral party is good. And other times you need somebody who's got perspective with a situation to be able to help guide you.
Yeah.
So, and I think that being able to also show up and be that safe space for other people is really powerful. There's something life-giving about being able to sit with somebody in a moment of processing and create a safe space, allow them to be authentic. There's something very life-giving to the person who's doing the listening too.
That's
in
right.
my experience.
Yeah, same. And I think it's really important to, like, again, as we're talking about safe people in your life or safe spaces, like, I don't know about you guys, I certainly had experiences where I was like shamed for sharing certain things.
Oh, I have been many times.
Where it's like you open up to someone and then the hammer comes down and you're like, ugh.
Yeah.
Wrong person, and you're just devastated afterwards. Like, I tried to be vulnerable with you. I tried to share something that was really important or
the feeling of I trusted you.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you shamed me, into whatever. And so I think, again, as you're working through this process of shedding performance and stepping into your, your truest self, it's really critical to see the negative sides of that too. What are those experiences that you've had? Reflecting on the kinds of people that you've shared with that are safe, or maybe people that aren't safe, and having those boundaries drawn way ahead of time. Like, this is kind of like, if it's a sacred topic, like, okay, I actually don't know who I should talk to about this. I don't have someone necessarily safe. Maybe a professional is the right space to start there. We both certainly are very open to therapy and making sure that if you need that kind of support, and it's something where you haven't created that yet, or you're in a big life transition and you're starting over, I just want to make it's not all easy and, right there and available. I mean, even though, Mariah and I met and it was like, oh, there you are. It was that moment. Like, not everyone gets to have that moment.
Well, and it took us,
yet,
I don't know,
years.
It literally took us over 35 years of our life before we found it. Like,
that's right. Yeah.
We didn't know we were looking for it.
And even still, like, it's not that we were holding back, but there was still things that I, like, once I learned something about you, it shed light on how to react and how to respond. And that grace, I think, with each other too, of like, if you share something really deep and it's someone you really, really care about and trust, and they shame you or shun you, check in and make sure it was accidental. Like, did you actually mean to say it like this? Because this is actually how I took it. I've had those situations too, where it's like, this really didn't sit right. Can I please check in with you? And that person's able to come back and be like, oh my gosh, that's not what I meant.
You're really good at doing
this
that.
Is like how I meant it actually. And so self-advocacy, I feel like, is a really big part as you're healing from a performance mentality of, don't forget to advocate for yourself and to ask for what you need. And if the person is truly just awful and you check in and they're like, no, that's how I meant it, get your life together, then okay, this person isn't safe to go back to. Don't return to the muck, move on. And again, if it's someone who's professional, who has the training to show up for you in something really deep, don't be afraid to ask for that help. I always suggest places like psychologytoday.com as a resource, because you can select your insurance provider and your zip code and what kinds of things you're looking to heal. And it's just a really wonderful free resource to be able to find some support. So we are always going to advocate and, and support mental health and make sure that people, if you're really dealing with something big or something that you've got a lot of shame around, maybe a friend isn't the right person to start that journey. And that's okay too. So just to touch on that.
Yeah. I'm looking through some of the.
We've
had such an organic conversation.
It's true. We always prepare questions, and I'm like, they're really good, and then we end up having like a great conversation. I mean, who are the people or situations you most reliably pull you out of? Like if you're stuck in a loop or you're stuck in your head. I mean, I certainly would say you're one of those people for me. If I'm in a loop, Mariah is probably the first phone call because she's a really good listener. And then she will typically offer 2 or 3 suggestions that we process and talk through. And sometimes I'll push back and be like, nope, that's not what I need.
Not right now.
I just need to talk it out. But I can't tell you how many times I'm stuck in a performance loop and I just flush something out. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that wasn't as big of a deal as I thought it was, or, oh, that was really good perspective or something I hadn't thought of yet. So I think a big part of working through performance mentality is staying real with, like we were talking about, stay real with yourself. If you can't look yourself in the mirror and be honest with who you're talking to there, and you find yourself not being honest with the people that you're sharing your life with, probably some performance that you're dealing with that's taking up mental real estate. But
I would say I'm somebody who considers myself to have a lot of friends, and I'm very fortunate. I also find that when I look across all of my friends, I have pockets.
That's right.
Where, it's this group of friends we're getting together for XYZ reason. And so, and there's not a lot of overlap with different groups of friends.
Same boat.
It's interesting to think about, am I showing up the same way in all of those groups? I think so. I think I'm thinking of one example where I met a group of friends through work, and we get together pretty consistently, and I'm really grateful for that. I think early on, our friendship all started because of hardships we were having at work. Okay, all but 2 people have left the company. And when you remove a layer of a foundation that you've built relationships on, and this is kind of the way we go through life, right? Like seasons change, we evolve as individuals, circumstances evolve. But it's been a really fun thing to see how everybody's continued to evolve their life and then to get to the heart of who we are as individuals, as a group, because I feel like our friendship is so much deeper today than it was when we met and we all worked for the same organization. So I think it's just another powerful point of reflection. And I guess self-awareness, really. It's not anything really to answer or to solve, but just to kind of check in, do an internal check-in. Like, are you showing up as the same person? And we all wear a lot of hats. So it can be confusing if you're thinking about, well, I don't know, I was asked to go speak at this conference and now I'm meeting new people and I think I'm showing up as myself. But then when I go home, like, oh, I feel like I can put my sweats on and just kick my feet up and relax. But like the 2 situations might be different. And how, like, the aspects of you and the skills you're pulling on to show up and be impactful in a situation, or just authentic, I guess. Those might be different, but the core of who you are.
And that's what I wanted to say, is that when we're talking about showing up as the same person, like, I absolutely have people in my life where we do different things together, you know, where it's like, I have one friend where it's like, oh, we are absolutely going out. We're getting dressed up. We're going out. Like that's the fun part of who we are. It's not that that's not a piece of myself.
Yeah.
It's maybe not part of my everyday. So it's extra special when I get to do that. But I'm not changing what's coming out of my mouth.
Right.
I'm not becoming someone else in order to fit in with that person. I'm the same me. I'm just zazzing it up a little bit with some red lipstick, And so I think when we're talking about that consistency, it's almost an energetic level too, where it's like, the core values that you carry around with you, and you're not afraid to use them in every situation. And it doesn't mean, that in one friend group, you're the dud, and in one friend group, you're the life of the party. That's the polar opposite, right? It's like, that's where you're like, oh, that's probably a little bit of performance, in that arena. But if you're able to kind of just show up in these different, because I have different friend groups as well, and we have different bases for our foundations, and even like the way we met. And I've mentioned my 100-year-old friend, like we talk about different things than I talk about with my 40-something friends. We talk about life, we reflect a lot, we talk about past experiences, and then our shared experiences. And we do a lot of like activities together where we build memories and do really big special things because we live in different states. And so building and spending time together looks very different, but absolutely the core and the energy that we bring to the table stays, consistent. So I don't know if that's helpful. I did want to talk about the situations that pull us out of ourselves. I think I'll tell on myself a little bit.
Okay.
In a big new environment where I'm meeting new people, I'm typically a corner dweller. I don't love being the life of the party in a new group of people. I will do it, but my natural propensity is to buddy up with someone that I either know or to just kind of observe for a while. And then I'll maybe like pick one or two people that I want to go speak with. So it's out of my comfort zone to put on a big smile and go meet and greet people, but put me in a hosting position in that same scenario, I'm fine. I am like talking to everybody. I mean, it's like, I just need situational like support, I suppose.
When you have like authority to be the one going up and like going and introducing yourself.
And it's like, it's like I have a job, I can invite these people and create an environment in which they connect. And I can facilitate. That's my comfort zone. And so I have to work really hard because there are situations where I have to step outside of myself and be on, and I don't feel like that's performance for me. I feel like it's just pushing myself to a limit where it's like,
it's that introverted, extroverted balance.
I have this, but I have to turn it on or off. But it's still a part of me, So I wanted to throw that example out because I think all of us have those parts of ourselves where it's like, well, this isn't a natural tendency. It doesn't necessarily mean you're living in performance or, that you're selling your soul, in certain situations. It's more just, how do I know myself? And do I know myself well enough to know how I'm going to show up in those situations? Or am I totally coming outside of my own skin and becoming like someone completely different in order to fit in? We don't want that for you because that's exhausting.
Well, right. So I find that the situations that I am most tempted to perform at all, and I've gotten a lot better at this, would be anytime my mom is present. Not proud of this, but it's the reality of like growing up and having a parent consistently correct you in situations. I mean, I kid you not, there were times that we would be invited as a family over to some other family friend's house. I can remember an incident Easter Sunday. My parents were in a small group. I was in high school. I was the oldest of all the kids. And I didn't really hang out with the kids. They were my brother's age, so like 10 years younger than me. I think the next oldest was still 4 years younger than me, which when you're a teenager is a really big difference.
Yeah.
And then there's the parents, and there's 8 families, and some of the families had like 6 kids. I mean, it was a lot of people.
Yeah, it was a big gathering.
And it was Easter, so it's a holiday, and it was a potluck, and it was wonderful, kind of. Because if I'm being really honest, we went early so we could have a sunrise service, and then we had brunch afterward. And what was the instruction I was given was, Mariah, you get into the kitchen and you clean up all the dishes. So everybody else is sitting around socializing. I also cooked and brought food.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I didn't do anything to contribute, yet I was the only person cleaning up somebody else's house.
Yeah.
That type of performance, like now that I think about it, I'm like, who would ever do that? Like, who would ever make somebody else do that? But then like that idea of like, am I doing enough? Am I showing up enough? Am I pulling my weight in somebody else's environment? Like if I'm somewhere, that was ingrained in me growing up. And I think, you know, I find I had a recent example where I went to an art show and I met an artist and I wanted to buy a piece of art, and a gift that this artist does is he does delivery and installation of his paintings. And I was really torn on what painting specifically would look best in my environment. So he said, don't worry, I'll bring my trailer to you and we can try a few pieces and you can pick in your space. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. I mean, I'm definitely going to buy something.
Yeah.
I knew that. I just didn't know which one. And so I was leaning towards one in the art festival. It ended up not being the one that I purchased, but just an example of like kind of doing that self check-in. Like, am I trying to perform? Because my mom happened to be there, and I had found another picture online that I missed in person, and I showed it to the artist and I said, do you happen to have this one? Because I really like it. And he said, yeah, it's in the trailer. I can bring it in. It's bigger. I don't know if it's going to work on the wall. And my mom was like, oh my God, why would you put him out like that? Okay. So just a moment to check in, right? Is this performance? Maybe there was a temptation there, and maybe there was a little bit of performance at first, but he fully told me not to buy a painting because he was going to bring his trailer to my house.
Yeah.
And he fully expected to try at least 2, if not 3 paintings in my house.
Right.
He's got a sales commission. There's a benefit to him doing this.
Right. He's providing you a service.
This is something he chooses to offer.
This is why he came to your house.
Right.
Right.
So there was this moment of this internal reckoning,
Yeah.
but it's just an example of how I can feel like when my mom is around, like, am I going to be judged? Am I going to be told that I'm being inconvenient? Because she did say, actually, with this one painting, she said, well, don't make him bring it in. It's going to be too big on the wall. And then, well, don't unwrap it all the way. So, I mean,
guess which painting she picked.
Yeah. And it was a unanimous decision that it was the best painting.
But it's a perfect example, right, of even in those moments, defaulting. Like if you had been your old self, it's not impossible that you would have defaulted.
I wouldn't have even brought the painting in.
To
I would
someone
have felt
else's
like I was being inconvenienced.
feelings, right? And then almost like selling out that experience of like, this person actually showed up for me.
Yeah.
And I got to experience this very joyful and beautiful interaction with this artist. What a beautiful story.
And I'm gushing over his craft. I mean,
but what if, I mean, it's like, wow, what if you just missed out on all of that?
Yeah. And it could have so easily
and you would have never known.
Yeah.
But what an amazing story that you didn't, and that you self-advocated, and that you got what you wanted.
Yeah.
Despite someone else's opinion, you know, about the outcome of that. And like, that's such a beautiful and powerful example, I think, of when you walk out of performance, even if there's still the internal dialogue, because I have that too, where it's like, sometimes you still got to talk yourself through it and go, hang on a minute.
Well, like we said at the beginning,
what's the truth?
We're not perfect at this.
That's right.
It's something we're still working on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, situations, and this is not something I'm proud of, when my kids are in an environment and like, say I want them to come meet someone, and it's the courteous thing to do. and a child, we won't name names, decides they don't want to do that, and they're very self-aware and they're very reliant, and they're completely comfortable in their own skin, which I'm like, I also helped that person get there, so that's good.
There's some pride there too.
But there's also this moment of like, how do you teach that lesson without shame? To say, however, it is courteous for you to come and say hello, even if you don't want to. Sometimes it is the right thing to do. But man, that shows up for me a lot with my kids, where I'm like, uh-oh, my kid looks like they're really entitled, or they look like they're ungrateful, or they look like kind of like a brat, and it's just like, oh, but that's not the child I'm raising, and so I get that little moment of like, okay, hold on, you can correct and you can redirect, but do not shame that person into doing, like, because I was shamed into behaviors a lot. That was how results were gotten. Shame is a very powerful, shame and fear, right? They're very powerful motivators for us. And so when we do something out of shame or we do something out of fear, 9 times out of 10, it's because, we were either raised in an environment like that, or it was a learned behavior.
Of course.
Where you had to kind of get through those things to make someone else okay. And so I've been working really hard as a parent to not shame my own kids into behaving.
I think you do a great job. I mean, you really have done a phenomenal job of giving them space to become their own individual people, to be able to safely express their wants and desires. And sometimes it backfires.
Yes.
And sometimes they still push boundaries.
Yes.
And that's so frustrating.
But so normal.
So normal. I mean, God, we were, as much as we love to think that we might have been perfect angels, we know we weren't as teenagers. Oh, yes.
No. Just kidding. I definitely was not a perfect angel. I do think, though, it's so interesting because even breaking the cycle of performance in our environment, like, people read your energy. They start to read your energy differently. And you'll notice as boundaries start to come up and you start to like protect certain aspects of who you are, people will stop pushing those boundaries in the same ways. They end up showing up differently because you're showing up differently. And
they respect you more for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've certainly seen that with you. I know you've seen that with me too, where it's like, hey, all of a sudden this person isn't pushing me like they used to. They're just not going there anymore. And it's a really amazing feeling. It's like, oh, well, my energy and my aura, like, I created that. My frequency created that, and I did want to.
It's all of that nervous system work that we've done. And
yes.
And I love that one of the beautiful things with us walking alongside one another, parallel journeys in life.
Hashtag.
One of the beautiful things is we don't always recognize ourselves when we've done the inner work and we're showing up differently. Sometimes one of the fun things that we get to do is take a moment and say, hey, I just want to really call out for a second what great progress you've made.
Yes.
And it's so fun to be able to have those moments of celebration with each other. Oh, and it feels so good. And it helps you. It helps me feel so seen and valued and appreciated and validated for the inner work that I've done. Because I think so often when you're doing inner work, it feels like there's nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
Like, you might feel all this internal turmoil and you might feel so different when you have these aha moments. Oh, but it feels so good to be seen and have that validated by somebody else.
That's right.
So I just want to thank you for that.
Of course, you too. I mean, and it's such a big win when you get that outside feedback.
Yeah.
Because you feel the changes.
Yeah.
Through regulation and through things where it's like, oh, I just feel better. I just feel prouder. I'm holding my head up higher, But
or like, wow, that moment that was triggering to me would have derailed me for days. And now it happened for 10 minutes and I caught it and I'm going to celebrate that.
Yes. But when someone else sees a big leap of progress or sees you handle a situation differently and they're able to celebrate that with you,
it's really fun.
It's truly amazing. And I think that's something else for our community that's so exciting because we want those moments with you. We want to be able to celebrate, when you have a big win.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you've been sharing like, hey, I'm working through this thing, and then you have the big win. Like, we want to be right there next to you celebrating. Yeah. So it is really exciting. This quote is actually really interesting. It's kind of timely. It says, from Psychology Today, the goal isn't to stop performing, it's to remain aware during the performance, to recognize which parts are yours and which parts are costumes. Mm-hmm. And I think, to the point of what we've just been talking about, performance is always going to sneak up and bite us sometimes. It's just part of being human, but we don't want it driving the costume changes, if you will, where you're in the back random, just ripping your old costume off and throwing on new makeup and trying to get through it. It's exhausting. Yeah, it is absolutely exhausting. And it takes so much joy and so much true life away from the day-to-day. We have enough to deal with. We have enough to manage, but when we have that layer of performance that's just pounding at us constantly, and we have to keep up those personas and keep up that mask, it is just absolutely exhausting. Mm-hmm. So don't live there is the point.
Yeah. I guess something I'd love to just ask you, is there any place in your life where performance feels non-negotiable, or do you think that you've been able to move past that?
I have to think about that.
That's fair. And maybe that's just a question that everybody can reflect on. Like, yeah, is there any place in your life where you're like, I just know I don't get to be myself here? And I will say I did have that with my old company. Yeah. Because when I tried to be myself, I got judged very heavily for it.
You did.
And then I was criticized that my performance was being impacted.
Yeah.
Which was not true. We don't have to go down the conversation path of that. I know it's not true.
It's a great question, though, to reflect on.
Yeah.
Because
what I've done differently, though, in another corporate environment is I said, I'm not going to make that same mistake again.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put on the performance hat from the beginning.
That's right.
I'm just going to show up as who I am.
That's right.
And I'm going to show up with the boundaries I have. Mm-hmm. And I'm not, I even think at work, it can be as much as like performing at an A+ level is not sustainable for everyday life, day in and day out. But it's really tempting when we go into a new environment to say like, I'm going to show up and I'm going to show them exactly what I can do. And I'm going to be a yes person. And I'm going to do, there's nothing I'm going to turn down. And that's what leads to burnout.
Yeah.
And I think advice I received and I have since given is show up at a C+, B- type level. Set that as your baseline. Mm-hmm. That way, when you need to ramp up because there's a deadline on a project, you have capacity because you know you're capable of showing up. But also, if you're having an off day, it's not the end of the world.
No one's the wiser.
Yeah. Because you still know that
I agree.
You're like killing it at a really solid level. You're doing a good job at a C+, B- level, and it's okay.
Right. Yeah. And that's so true. And it's so funny because even right now I'm like, C-. That's too, or C+. I'm like, that's average.
It's okay.
Just telling on myself.
But like it actually applies not just at work, but it can apply in relationships, everywhere. In your household.
Well, hello. How many times do I say, why do I expect the same thing out of people?
Yeah.
The way I show up for people, why do I expect them to show up that way for me? Why? Because I'm an A+er. I'm just like,
but
everything
also,
has to be perfect.
As we know, and that's not sustainable. That's what leads to burnout.
So now I'm having to take down the A+, and this is a valid point. I'm having to take down the expectations of the A+ and go, I'm only capable of B-level work and a high C when things are real busy or really crazy in life. Like, take the pressure off as much as possible ahead of time. If you've already worked yourself into that situation where people are
Which
like,
we're all guilty of.
you can do it all and I'm going to let you.
Or what I'm very guilty of, I know that I'll schedule things out on my calendar and then I'm like, oh, and somebody's coming into town, and I will find myself overcommitted because I want to see said person or I want to do XYZ activity, and it just, there's only this time it can happen, or
Right.
This event only happens once a year, so I have to do it. If I'm going to do it this year, I have to go that day.
Right.
And I will find sometimes it happens where I've got commitments every single night of the week and I've worked also, and I'm exhausted and I don't want to do it. And then it's a good time to check in and say, do I need to shift and not have as many commitments? Sometimes the answer is yes. Do I still want to go? And usually the answer is yeah, I do still want to go. I still want to be there. And I recognize that I'm just tired and I'm going to give myself permission to leave early. Or I know I might just be tired tomorrow, and maybe that means that I give myself permission to not work out or not go for my walk, or
something has to give, right?
Yeah.
And I think I'm the queen of this as well, of like, or not being willing to cancel a commitment and really overdoing it for myself, and like pushing myself to the point of being completely bedraggled because I didn't want to let anyone down. And I can't say that's even performance as much as it is me having a hard time saying no.
Yeah, but you just can't pour from an empty
Can't.
cup.
And when the thing is empty, it's real empty. And we end up paying for it,
Of course we do.
So,
we get sick. I mean, that's right. Happens the most.
Exactly.
Is we'll get sick, or something in our body majorly malfunctions, like
it
goes out of
like,
whack.
Stop.
Yeah. I mean, there's the whole book about it. The body keeps the score.
That's right.
But the reality is, like, if we don't create space for ourselves, then it's funny how our bodies have a tendency to force us into it, which doesn't feel good either.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. I guess is there anything else that was kind of burning, or anything you wanted to reflect on?
I do want to touch on regulation, I think, very quickly before we close, because I think especially if you're coming out of a performance mindset, or you're new to it, or even if you've been practicing it for a long time and you get, tripped up or something familiar comes in, like, I think it's so important to, like, in tandem to practicing like that non-performance behavior as part of your daily work. It's really important to make sure that you're regulated. And to Mariah's point about self-care, basic self-care, I feel like, and we've touched on this before, but I'm going to say it again, self-care is not always going out and doing something for yourself, like the spa or something. A lot of times
it's nice when those things happen,
but a lot of times it's just the daily routines. It's carving out that time for yourself, making sure that you're setting yourself as a priority and not feeling bad about it, not feeling like you have to explain that you're a priority to other people.
I had this happen actually a couple days ago. Somebody asked if I had plans that evening, and I thought I might. And then I didn't. And I was sitting there going, I'm exhausted. I mean, truly, I was, by like 1:00 in the afternoon, I felt like I couldn't keep my eyes open. And I thought, oh, I really should, right? Get up, get my butt in gear, get ready, go find somewhere to go do something. And you see my face. This is how I felt about it. And it wasn't that I didn't want to spend time with that person. It was just that I didn't have the energy to get up, to put makeup on,
right? To
put real clothes on.
I know. I was like, it was called sweatpants on the inside.
Yeah. For me, they're
wearing those sweatpants on the inside.
I had a super productive morning, and I just didn't want to. And
that's so okay.
Yeah. I actually was honest with that person, and I said, I don't know what's happened. I am really tired,
Yeah.
I think the best thing I can do is to just stay home, not do any of the plans I thought about, and go to bed early. And they were fine with it.
Yeah.
And guess what? My body really reveled in that.
Yeah. You needed it.
I needed it.
Yeah.
I got in bed at like a little after 8.
Bam.
Granted, I wasn't probably lights out till like 9:30.
Oh,
which is still kind of early.
There's nothing though like PJs and crawling into bed and just being done for the day and doing what you want from that point.
Yeah.
It's like,
actually,
you know,
even putting my phone in do not disturb, I gave myself permission to just disconnect from the world and to listen to my audiobook and relax. And this, I don't know if anybody else says this, but when I get really tired and I yawn, tears come out of my eyes, and it happens to me more times than I'd like to admit that it happens, because I stay up later than I should a lot of times. However, I got to that point and I went, okay, as much as I'm enjoying my book, it's probably time to turn the lights off and go to sleep. Yeah. And I did. And it was wonderful. And that was self-care.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. And I think that's just a question, you know, that we can pitch is like, what are things that you all do? What are things that reliably bring you back to a base level of I'm safe, you know, my nervous system's regulated, I'm okay, I'm coming down, I'm not in that high performance mode or that high octane mode of like, okay, I feel this, you know, when your heart's pounding and things aren't okay, coming down, you know, listening to a meditation, for me, that'll do it real quick. If I just plug a meditation into my ear and let my body come down, deep breathing, like those things where it's like, it's okay when you catch yourself in performance or when you catch yourself in a mode that isn't life-giving to reset. You know, it's never too late. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. It could be 9 a.m. or it could be, you know, midnight and you're wide awake. It doesn't matter. Don't be afraid to take the time to regulate and just come down and remind yourself who you really are. Something that I'll share in closing is that I did that really, really benefited me and helped me through the years is picking kind of like my top 10 characteristics about myself that I love. And just
you walked me through this.
Yes.
It's hard.
It's hard at first, but then when you really start reflecting and you really can look in the mirror and like say them back to yourself and like self-affirmations truly, but it's so important to have that baseline of who am I? What makes me tick? You know, if you can't think of some, like pull up a feelings wheel. That's my recommendation online. Just literally Google
the feelings wheel
or feelings wheel, and it will come up and it will give you the base emotions and then this big wheel of periphery emotions. It'll get things churning, you know, and one of my biggest ones is loyalty. And so that's also kind of tricky because loyalty often drives me to do things that maybe I wouldn't normally want to do or that I don't want to do. So that's one of my tricky ones, right? So I think it's important, have your list, know what your tricky ones are that lead you into performance or that lead you into like burnout, and then identify those and just keep it in your mind's eye of like, hey, is this performance or is this something that's really going to bring me life? Or sometimes, and it's true, sometimes you do have to put yourself down and say, actually, this is really critical. I need to show up because I'm needed. And that's also okay. Like,
or I've previously committed. That happens too.
That's also okay. Like, we're not saying just become a flake, you know, and just throw it all to the wind. Like, we want you to be who you are. We want you to be a good human. We want you to feel good about yourself. And so I think it's really important though, to be able to check in and go, can this slide? Is this something I really need to do? Or is this something that's probably something I can let go that's going to bring some life back into my lungs?
It's much more, in my personal experience, it's much easier before you commit to something to have that check-in moment so that you don't feel obligated when the time comes.
That's right.
So I don't know why it can just be easier before you make the commitment to have the internal check-in.
Right. Yeah.
If it doesn't always happen, it's okay. Like, And sometimes I find that I'll look at my calendar and I'll say, ooh, like this actually happened to me over Memorial Day weekend, where I found for the first time in months, I had no commitments. And almost everybody I knew that I would tend to make plans with was out of town. And as kind of run ragged as I had been feeling from social things that I was doing that were very life-giving and satisfying to my soul, I also found I worked myself to the bone on projects around my house that have been using so much mental real estate. And as exhausting as that work is, it's also so worth it, because now I have internal peace as I look around my physical space, and my sanctuary feels like it's been restored.
That's good.
And so, like, there's balance in all of it, in how we expend our energy and how we can then recharge our batteries. So
that's right.
I don't know.
It's great.
I guess wherever you are on this journey, we're so happy that you're here with us.
Yeah.
We're so happy to be able to show up for you. We're so grateful that you're here for each other. And our community is going to keep growing. We're going to keep supporting each other. And we're going to keep growing too.
Yeah, it's
so
true.
Thank you for being on this journey with us.
Yes. And thank you for joining us. We look forward to next time.